The night of the company holiday party glittered with the usual pretense: fairy lights strung over the patio, a jazz trio playing softly, coworkers in their best off-duty outfits pretending they weren't counting performance reviews and bonuses. I told myself I'd go for an hour, be polite, make an appearance, go home. My wife, Lila, kissed my cheek as I left, slipping into a sequined dress that caught the light like a confession. She smiled in the way she used to smile at me across hospital corridors and cramped apartments, proud, private, hers. I should have trusted that smile. I should have seen the tilt of her head as something else. At first the evening was harmless. I drifted from group to group, laughed at old jokes, traded the safe pleasantries people hand each other like business cards. Lila was somewhere near the bar. Once, she waved at me from across the crowd, but her eyes were quick, distracted. Later, when a client cornered me to talk numbers, I felt the small, familiar tug of jealousy and pushed it away like a bad idea. People cheat in books and movies, I told myself. People who are unhappy, people who are reckless. Not her. Not Lila. I was halfway through a toast when I noticed her absence. I stepped out onto the terrace to catch a breath of cold air and found, instead, a scene that felt like a door slamming in my chest: Lila in conversation with Sam and Derek, two colleagues I'd met at the office, both charming, both too comfortable. They were leaning in too close, laughing too loud, and then they moved toward the staff entrance, out of sight. It was small and meaningless, I told myself at first. A short walk, a smoke, a conversation. But my phone buzzed while I stood there, and when I glanced down, a message from an unknown number popped up on the screen with a photo attached: Lila's dress in the dim hallway, a hand on her back, a shadow of a face at her shoulder. I followed them. They smelled like perfume and beer, the echo of laughter trailing behind them like confetti. In a service corridor behind the hall, under a strip of failing fluorescent light, I saw them, not kissing furtively, not whispering with guilty hands, but touching each other in a way that was deliberate and public within that little private world. Lila stood between them, flushed and laughing, like someone trying out a new currency and delighting at its power. Two men. One woman. My chest tightened and then, strangely, went numb. I did not yell. I did not burst in and make a scene. I took pictures with my phone, hands over shoulders, a flirty hand at a waist, every shot careful, steady, deliberate. I recorded a 5-minute voice note outside the door, my own voice steady as I described what I'd seen, so that when my voice trembled later, I could listen to proof that I hadn't imagined it. I watched them re-enter the party arm in arm and laugh like conspirators. Lila's laugh, the sound I'd thought belonged only to me, cut through me with a new, unfamiliar sharpness. Back home I made coffee and sat at the kitchen table with the photos spread out like evidence. Grief and strategy are the same temperature in the middle of the night, hot and immediate. I could have confronted her then, smashed plates and screamed confessions that would have matched those on her lips. Instead I archived. I saved the photos to encrypted folders, downloaded messages that had been open on her laptop when she dozed on the couch, and pulled up receipts from the company card that showed a hotel charge with names that didn't belong to a client. Every piece of proof was a tile in a mosaic that spelled one word: betrayal. I told myself I would be fair. I would not practice cruelty that resembled theirs. So I did what the world respects more than spectacle: I let institutions do the burning. HR matters, I told myself. Contracts matter. Reputations are business, and business answers differently than private vengeance. The next morning I walked into the Human Resources office with a calm I had to fake. I handed them the folder, explained what I had seen, and turned over the photos and receipts. I want this investigated, I said. Not for me, for the company. For the clients. My voice did not crack. That night, the company put the three of them, Lila, Sam, and Derek, on leave pending inquiry. The phrase pending inquiry sounded antiseptic and terrible, like a diagnosis read off a metal clipboard. Word spreads in halls and inboxes the way a stain spreads on fabric. Managers whispered. Clients asked for reassignment. The firm, which thrived on appearances and polished fumblings, could not afford finger-pointing. When the investigation found misuse of corporate funds, hotel stays billed as client entertainment, meals that matched no meetings, invoices that looped back to personal accounts, it was the sort of tidy, unforgiving arithmetic that jobs don't like. Sam and Derek were escorted from the building in the quiet way firms remove bad headlines. Lila's name was attached to a series of emails that revealed her enthusiasm for late nights and team retreats that blurred into something else. She was put on leave indefinitely. At first, she begged. Her texts were frantic, and sometimes, at 2 a.m, she would call and leave messages that split my heart. James, it was a mistake. They meant nothing. Please, we can fix this. I listened to the messages once, twice, and then I saved them, another piece of the ledger. When she pleaded in person, I looked at her the way one studies a specimen you once loved, curious, clinical. Why? I asked when I could stand it no longer. Her answer, when it came, was small and human. I wanted to feel seen. I thought I could keep it private. I didn't think about the consequences. Consequences arrived like winter. Clients pulled projects she had spearheaded. A promotion that had been whispered about at the last review evaporated. The 3 reputations that had glittered at the party were stripped of polish in memos and HR briefings. Lila's parents called at first with confusion and then with a porous, stunned sadness. Friends who had once been bridges became islands, job offers went silent. The social scaffolding she had relied on for years creaked until it collapsed. People said I was cruel. Others said I was right. In the court of public opinion, nuanced verdicts rarely land. I had chosen to hand over the facts and let corporate consequence and social fallout do their work. It cost all of them, careers, friendships, the soft armor people build for themselves when life feels banal. Most of all, it cost Lila the comfortable narrative she had told herself, that she could have thrills and keep home intact. She could not. I signed the divorce papers with a hand that did not tremble. It felt, perversely, like permission to start naming myself again, not someone's husband, not a footnote in someone else's mistakes. Months later, when the headlines had cooled and the firm had reorganized, I walked past our old neighborhood without looking up. Lila moved out. She found a small apartment, the kind of space that fits only essentials and apologies. I learned, slowly, that betrayal leaves both the betrayer and the betrayed raw in different ways. She had lost a career that had been built on charm and proximity. I had lost the version of us I'd believed in.